Hi, this is Angie Carpenter, Town of Islip Supervisor, and we're here again with Supervisor Spotlight. And I'm absolutely delighted today to have as our guest Father Victor Wronsky, correct?
Thank you.
Who is the pastor of St. Peter and Paul Ukrainian Church in West Islip. And certainly the Ukraine has been in the news, unfortunately, the last couple of months for, reasons that we don't want to hear about the Ukraine. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I would like, if you don't mind,
Sure.
if you talk a little bit about how you became a priest,
Sure.
especially in the Ukrainian Orthodox,
Yes.
Ukrainian Orthodox Church.
Yes. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, let me just interrupt. And part of our thinking about doing the show today, particularly because of what's going on in the Ukraine, is to bring a little bit of sense of personally how it's hitting us here and what we can do. Because I don't think I have ever seen, we've had devastation, we've had, Superstorm Sandy and hurricanes and storms, and people want to do and help, Katrina down south, people were sending truckloads of things down. People are incredible, really.
Very generous.
But for some reason, this particular thing has really touched people's hearts, So
Absolutely. Yeah.
tell us how you got to be Father Victor.
Yeah, born and raised in Huntington, Hospital. I am first generation of my parents came from Ukraine during the same type of situation that Ukraine is facing right now during World War II. My parents are still both alive, and I talk to them very often about the situation and what they went through. And what they went through is basically what is happening right now, but we see it in real time. We see it through Facebook, we see it through the internet, and what's going on.
And that's probably the difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very visible and very personal. And so after I finished Oxford University, I was studying finance, and my career was going to be in Wall Street, and I was actually in the Trade Center looking for a job. But by God's providence, I never got an interview at the Trade Center. And shortly afterwards, the Twin Towers fell. And God directed my path to a new direction, and I decided to go into seminary. I thought that life without God would be a life with being emptiness. I would not be fulfilled in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I felt this void in my life, and God filled that void in my life. And so I entered seminary, and shortly afterwards of almost 4 years of seminary, I was ordained in 2005, and I was then a pastor in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, in St. Peter and Paul, Long Island. So it's been a nice journey, and this has definitely had a huge impact on everybody throughout the world, because what we're seeing is so horrible. We haven't seen such destruction, such civilian casualties in a very long time, especially on the continent of Europe. And it's something that hits close to home for me, because to this day, my father talks about the bombs falling, how close they were to death. And my father to this day tells me it's just by chance that we got out alive.
Wow.
Some people make it and some don't, and you just don't know why.
So now you were on this career path to be in finance, graduated from Hofstra, probably had great grades.
Yeah.
And how did your parents react? Were they like, wait a minute, what are you doing?
Yeah, definitely. It's a 180.
Yeah.
Especially on my father's side, he has a financial background, and so that was his dream for me to enter that business. But God was always talking to me in my heart, and so. But then my father realized, it's better not to go against God's desires.
Yeah, that was probably a wise choice.
Yes.
A wise choice. And I think at the end of the day, I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent, more than anything, you certainly want your kids to be successful, but you want them to be happy, and you want them to, follow your heart,
Yes. And that's what brings happiness to me, is to serve others, to help others. And that's what we're trying to do today, what's going on in Ukraine. Especially the civilians that are being affected. It's pretty terrible. And so as a priest, I'm really trying my best to help people. that's what we're trying to do at St. Peter and Paul right now.
Yeah. So were you the founder of this church?
This church is very interesting.
It's
It
been
began
there a long
yeah,
time. Now, I've
1936.
lived in that community for
Yeah.
over 50 years and always knew of that church being there and knowing that there was a very strong presence of the Ukrainian population. You know, they're Ukrainian, Polish.
Yes.
The Parkwood Hall existed off Parkwood Road in West Islip, way west of where the church is on Higby Lane, and it is now a development of lovely big colonial homes, and that was probably built about 10 or 15 years ago. But there was a very, very active parish hall there, and they used to have a festival every year, and they had the eggs.
Yes, the piston kid,
Yes,
right, yes,
yes,
the Ukrainian
yes.
Easter eggs.
Yeah, yeah.
Their church has a very interesting history. It was founded by the first immigrants who came to America in the 1920s, actually. And in the early 30s, they began the church community in West Islip.
Mhm.
And that building was founded approximately 1935. And it existed until about 2000. And unfortunately, the membership passed away. There weren't any new generations, basically. And the building it was sat there empty, basically.
Mhm.
We rented it out to various organizations, but it wasn't a church pretty much anymore. Until 2011, by the blessing of my bishop and with the help of my presbyter, Ivanka, we took over that church and we started to plant the seeds.
Oh, that's
And the seeds started to grow and grow each year. And now, by the grace of God, it's a wonderful, loving community. As you have seen.
Yeah, it's
And-
amazing. I
yeah.
went down there a couple of weeks ago. I had seen a posting on Facebook that you were collecting donations on, this 3-hour window on a Friday evening. And I went down there because I wanted to know what we could do. So many people have reached out to me, as a town, what are you doing? And we want to do something, but we want it to be meaningful. And so I know that there are people are donating clothes and supplies and all kinds of things. But we want to make sure what we're soliciting is something that you're going to need and something that we can get there,
Absolutely.
But before we go down that road, let us take a little break, and we will be back with Father Victor and his compelling story of his life as a priest at St. Peter and Paul Ukrainian Church in West Islip, right here in the town of Islip. Welcome back to Supervisor Spotlight, and particularly today as we're chatting with Father Victor from St. Peter and Paul Ukrainian Church in West Islip. And he's been so kind to share some of his history and how he got to be a priest. But I'd like to talk a little bit about the history of St. Peter and Paul Church, because it's the community I live in, and I've always known that church to be there. But there was a time when it was kind of dormant.
Yes.
And now it's like just a beehive of activity now.
Absolutely. It's like a flower that's blooming.
Yup.
And it's
Yep.
growing, and it's beautiful to see. The seeds that we planted there, the fruit of our labors is showing now, and it's very nice. We have a very nice community, especially young people and children, which is nice to see.
Mhm.
So I see future generations. I see children that I've baptized and now going to middle school, which is
that's great.
so nice. And it's so happy for me, because to be a first generation, growing up myself here in Huntington, and just to see now these kids now be just like me, you adapt
Yeah.
to America. You're American,
Yep.
you're
Yep.
American.
Hey,
And
I'm first generation.
Oh.
My parents were both born in Italy, came over here very late in life, and didn't really speak the language well at all, and had very little education, but instilled in my sister and I a sense of how important education was, and family and so forth. But, so I know what you're saying about they were so proud of anything we accomplished,
And it's nice, and it just makes me feel really good to see that growth, and I see a part of myself in them, which is really nice. It's a nice community.
Now, the churches in West Islip,
Yes.
do your parishioners come from other communities, or they basically tend to be local to the church?
I would say the majority is the Lindenhurst area.
Oh, well, there's a very big Polish population in Lindenhurst, right?
Exactly, and that helps, the Copeg area right there in that
Yeah.
area. And I would say just a few out east, not too many, maybe just a few families out, I would say in Sayville, maybe a little bit
Mhm.
further. And that's about it, but majority Copeg, Lindenhurst, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, very nice. We're not a big parish, we're a small parish, but we're a parish filled with a lot of love.
Well, you
Wow.
can see that. I
Yeah.
mean, when I stopped in there that Friday night and saw everyone just hustling about and packing up things, and it was contagious. You just wanted to do something.
Yeah. I try to spread the word of love all the time. Love and compassion, and love for thy neighbor, which is most important. And I see a lot of that, the result of that, of the outpouring of help from the Islip community has been amazing. When the first week of the war broke out, we knew that we had to do something as a church, so we started to
Mhm.
organize. We started to find out, okay, how can we gather things? How can we ship them? What do we need? And I was taken aback how many people from the community came to the church to help.
And these are
Yeah.
not parishioners.
No.
These are people from the community who just want to do something,
Just
which is
to do
beautiful.
something. There was one day I could not get to the front doors of the church because there were so many items on the front steps, all the way
Wow.
leading to the sidewalk.
Wow.
And I didn't know how I could open the church. It was, I never saw anything like that in my life. And I was so happy to see the outpouring from the residents in Islip. And I mean, it really, I cannot express enough how it touched me, our parishioners, the outpouring of love and support to this day. And we thank you as well for your support to the community. And it's been amazing. I don't think there's a word in the dictionary that exists to express how thankful we are to the community, really, and to the outpouring of help.
Well, I would say that those who were there, and I met a couple last night that are not parishioners, they're not from West Islip, they were from East Islip actually, and they were there with their children, and they just wanted to help,
Yeah.
you know? But it makes you feel good
Yes.
to know you're doing something. In fact, I was talking about this to someone today, that you were going to be coming on the show, and he asked me to find out if there is a mechanism for adopting a family. You know, if,
I am getting these phone calls.
yep,
This is what I mean about the support. I never thought in my life I would receive several phone calls already from families from different parts of Long Island asking how they can host a family. And we have the list of those people's names and numbers.
oh, great.
Yes, we're going to keep in contact with them. I know as of right now, the Biden administration has allowed, as of this morning, a new policy of accepting approximately 100,000
Yes, I saw that this
refugees.
morning, 100,000
Right.
refugees.
So we don't know the details of that policy yet, but as that starts to come about, and we're going to be in touch with organizations that deal with those
Mhm.
type of legal issues, we'll definitely reach out to
Yeah.
those
I'm
families.
sure that Congressman Garbarino's office will be very helpful.
Sure.
You know, in that
Absolutely.
endeavor, because I know whenever we have any of those issues that deal with that, they're right there, so
Absolutely.
you'll have to get that information out.
And once again, it hits home, because it's what my parents went through almost 80 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, they needed somebody in America to have somebody sponsor them to come, you know? And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Yeah.
And now I see that it's happening all over again, and I feel like I have to do my part now to help these people, you know? And I feel that everybody has that feeling, to try to help in any way we can. So I'm very fortunate.
Well, hopefully what we're doing here today, you know, is our way of helping get that word out, helping to direct things in a positive way so that
Sure.
it really is meaningful, and you're not contributing something and it's laying in a warehouse and it never got to where it was intended to go.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
so tell me something now. The logistics of, and we'll get into the specifics of the kinds of things that you need right now, that you would be encouraging people to donate. And if I remember correctly from what I saw last night, clothes is not one of them.
Yeah, we have more than enough clothing. because we're hearing reports down the Polish side, the western city of Lviv, they have more than enough of clothing. It's more than enough. So we're so thankful for all the donations of the clothing, but as of right now, that's not our most pressing need right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So when you do get these donations, how are you getting them there?
Right. So what we're doing, so at the church hall, we're packing it like you saw last
Mhm.
night. We're then writing on the boxes what exactly are those items. And then we have, what's amazing, we have a lot of Ukrainian truck drivers.
Oh,
Yes.
that's interesting.
There are many Ukrainian truck drivers, and they are volunteering their time to come with their trucks, and we're loading them on pallets onto the 18-wheelers and other smaller trucks, and it's going to an organization in New Jersey called Meast Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
And it's a shipping company. It's a Ukrainian shipping company, and they've been in business for many years, and they ship all the time. They ship through cargo, air cargo, by sea, and we're going through that route right now. But unfortunately, the shipping rates are not cheap, so that's one thing.
Well, you know, and that's interesting because I know my daughter-in-law is from Brazil, and, you know, her family could use help, and she tries to send things there. But it's difficult and very expensive.
Yes.
And you have to hope it gets there.
Yes, exactly.
So how do we do something about that? I mean,
Well, we have a nice story to share, actually, because you always have this apprehension, how's it going to get there? Is it going to get there? Because you always have that fear. And we have that, we had a very nice story where every time we do a package, a box, the children's drew these very nice pieces of artwork, and we put it in top of the box, just to show the support for the families. And in the western part of Ukraine, the city of Lviv, where everything goes to that point from Warsaw, we saw on a Facebook posting when they opened that box with that drawing.
oh my gosh, how cool is that?
Yeah, and we
yeah.
knew because that drawing was so unique. It was so unique. There was not any other child that could have done that drawing. It was from our church. And
So you know it
we
got
knew
there.
it. Yeah,
Oh,
we
that's so
were
great.
so
That's
happy.
great.
So we knew,
Yeah.
okay, this is working, and so we feel confident that is getting there.
It's funny you should say that about children's art, because we have a preschool program in the town, various locations, where, you know, working parents can safely leave their children. And once a year, we do the Thanksgiving food basket drive. And this year, we did nearly 1,000, they're not baskets, they're actually boxes of all of the fixings for a Thanksgiving dinner. And we created a centerpiece, and the kids in the preschool draw them, and so it makes people happy. We're going to take a little break, and we will be back with Father Victor and more about the Ukraine and all the wonderful things. You know, everything negative has something positive that comes out of it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you.
We'll be back. Welcome back to Supervisor Spotlight. I'm Angie Carpenter, Town of Islip Supervisor, and today we're so blessed to have with us Father Victor from the Ukrainian Church in West Islip, St. Peter and Paul, and we've been talking about the Ukraine and the awful situation, but as I said earlier, you know, sometimes, you know, out of every negative comes a positive, and the good Lord knows what he's doing, you know. And this terrible, terrible situation there has shown us here in the town of Islip, you know, the humanity in people, that they want to help.
Yes.
You know, the stories that you're sharing, it's really, really incredible.
Yeah, and I see it continuing. I think this crisis is not going to be over that quickly. And for example, now we're shifting our efforts now towards the medical supplies. The reason for that, unfortunately, is that civilians are being targeted. They're being targeted by shelling, and they are being targeted by Russian soldiers shooting civilians, unfortunately. And so these wounds that they're receiving are quite severe. From shelling, a person could receive a very severe wound from shrapnel, and that creates a lot of bleeding. And so right now we're trying to gather items that could help save a person's life on the ground. The first medics get there.
Okay, so let's So let's give some, and
Sure.
we'll tell people, where they can bring them and
Yes.
what we can do. But you brought some
Sure.
things to show us.
The most important thing that we're asking for now is something called bleed stop. This is a type of powder that is put on a wound to stop aggressive bleeding on somebody who's seriously injured. And to get this in Ukraine, just this one package costs over more than $100.
Wow.
Very expensive.
And what about here? And can you get this like in your local pharmacy?
Yes, this is at CVS and Amazon, and you could buy at those places, and even Walmart, I believe, also online has it as well. And it's much cheaper. I don't know the exact price, but it's not $100. I don't think more than
My guess would be about $8 or something, probably.
probably in that range.
Yeah.
So that's something they could need, because what happens is when a poor civilian is wounded and the first responders get there, they could use this to stop that traumatic bleeding, and they could get them triaged to the hospital, and they could have them survive.
Okay.
So this is
So, I'm going to say, we could, and we do donations for, Long Island Cares, food donations and everything. We collect jeans for teens and all kinds of things. So I would say that we would be happy to provide the Town Hall and Town Hall West as a repository, and maybe also at the West Islip Senior Center, since it's right down the road from the church, that people could just drop donations off in a box. We'll put it near the front or something.
Thank you so much. That's
Okay?
fantastic.
So let's, besides the
Yes.
bleed stop, what are the kinds of things that,
Unfortunately, also what we need are tourniquets. They come in various packs, 2, 4, 8. Also, tourniquets is a method to stop bleeding. It's very unfortunate. This war is so horrific, and it's taken such a toll on the civilian population. And as I mentioned earlier, some of these wounds are so catastrophic that there are civilians who lose their limbs. I know of a young girl yesterday who lost her leg because she stepped near a landmine and exploded.
wow,
So these are types, the tourniquets are something that could really stop a type of bleeding and save someone's life immediately. So this is one other item. Also, we have is called a quick clot. And it's the same thing as bleed stop, except it's in a gel form. So it serves the same purpose as the bleed stop, but it's more of in a gel form. So these two are very good. They serve the same purpose. And then we would have...
so this is called Quick
Quick
Clot.
clot, yeah,
Okay.
quick clot, yes. What's most unfortunate, as of yesterday, the news that I have been receiving, is that Russian forces are now using phosphorus bombs. At the Geneva Convention, they were outlawed, but phosphorus bombs are very, very deadly because they ignite in the air, and when it touches the skin, it not only burns the skin, but it burns all the way into the bone of the person.
Oh my gosh.
Right, and this is why Saints Peter and Paul were now trying to utilize our efforts to get these types of products and medicine to people, to civilians. And one product which is very good is called water gel. It's a burn dressing. And this helps to alleviate those burns on victims. And it could help stabilize them also until they can be triaged and brought to the hospital, to the emergency room. So this is something that's very effective. This also could be bought on Amazon as well, Walmart online, and I believe CVS might have it. Amazon and Walmart. Amazon and
Okay.
Walmart.
Okay.
And lastly, what really helps is a first aid kit, such as this one here. The first aid kit's really good because there's a lot of things inside, but what's important that we need is that the first aid kit has gauze, a scissors, and also a blanket, which really helps. And so this gives the first responders, the medics, additional tools to help civilians and treat them on the ground. So this is our most urgent need at this time of the war right now.
Okay, so that's simple enough, and I think what we'll try to do is have a listing that'll roll on the screen at the end of this broadcast that people can see the items then. And maybe what we'll do is we'll put it up online
Sure.
so that
Thank
people
you.
can go and check. We can, refer to the website and the kinds of items that you really need. And I would imagine that if you don't want to be bothered shopping and you don't want to go online and order it, that we could write a check to St. Peter's and Paul Church, or are there other organizations that,
There are 3 ways you could donate, actually.
Please tell us.
Yes, we have our Facebook page, and you could go to facebook.com/STS Peter and Paul Mission. And we're actually having a fundraising campaign right now to gather donations so we could, A, cover shipping costs, but also buy these products for the civilians. Secondly, you could go onto our website, and that's going to be stspeterandpaul.info. And lastly, if you'd like to write a check, you can make the check payable to Saints Peter and Paul, and you could send that to 64 Higbee Lane in West Islip. And those are 3 ways where people could donate and reach out.
okay, well, I definitely will put that up on the website. And I'm also going to put you in touch with a young man, a student at Brentwood High School, who reached out to me. He emailed me, and he wants so desperately to do something and wanted to know if I could hook him up with someone who could help with transportation. But I think it's important for us to have that conversation with him so that he's not collecting clothing or something that
Yeah.
you don't need as much as this.
Exactly.
So,
I appreciate
and I
that.
kind of had said that to him
Okay.
based on the conversation I had with Ivanko, last week. But I will get back to him, and I'm sure you're going to be
Thank
hearing
you.
from him.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
But, whatever we can do,
Thank you.
help spread the word, and really just pray that this whole thing,
Thank you.
that sanity, rules, and those that are perpetrating these deeds realize how just heinous it is.
It's a fight against evil. It's that simple. And good always overcomes evil. It just depends, not on our time, I like to say,
Yeah.
but on God's time.
Oh.
He wears a different watch than we do. so.
And he is definitely on your side.
Yeah.
And, Father Victor, I can't thank you enough for coming down.
Thank
And hopefully, in our little way, we've helped a little bit. And I know our family, our community of residents in the town of Islip are going to be there. They're going to be there, and they're going to help.
Thank you
So,
for your
thank
assistance.
you.
Thank you for your support. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Thank you to
Thank
all
you.
the residents of Islip. I cannot tell you enough how thankful we are. May God bless all of you.
Thank
We're
you.
so thankful. Thank you.
Thank you. Signing off, Supervisor Spotlight. We'll see you next time. Thank you.